All right. Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. All right, the board has already met in executive session, and we saluted the flag at that time. Ms. Rowland, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Salmon?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Ms. Light?
Here.
Ms. Hira? Oh, Shirley, okay. Ms. McCune?
Here.
Mr. Molinari?
Here.
Mr. Amin?
Here.
And Ms. Chipak?
Here.
And Mr. Rashio?
Here. Okay. This is a regular session, a regular meeting of the Board of Education of Burns Township. Notice of the time and place of this meeting was provided, and copies of that resolution were forwarded to the official newspapers as designated by the Board of Education and to the Township Clerk, and a copy of the notice was posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education offices in accordance with PL 1975, Chapter 231A. The rest is posted online and in our handouts. Just two things of note. There will be two opportunities for public comment. The first public comment will be on agenda items. The second public comment will be on whatever is on your mind. So when it's time to talk, please come forward, sign in, state your name and address, and say what you came to say. That will bring us up to our student representative. Natalie, please.
Hello everybody, how are you guys doing today? Hope you're very well. Welcome once again. My name is Natalie Ramirez Porras. If you guys didn't know who I am, I serve as both the student representative to the Board of Education, and I am the president of the student body here at Ridge. So what's currently going on? The success, first of all, of our Spirit Week was posted on social media, and representing the student and both teacher attire, it went great. For our homecoming day last Friday, the cheer team, dance team, and marching band both gave a very outstanding performances at the prep rally attended by students. Additionally, varsity sports team and grade level volunteer representative engaged in a tug-of-war competition while chanting for one another to win. After school, we successfully had our first intergrade tailgate where students enjoyed the amazing food from a variety of volunteer-run activities like face painting, hairspray, music, and more. We appreciate the efforts of all the volunteers. Our homecoming royalty were introduced at the success of the homecoming pink out game. In other news, overall marking period 1 has been outstanding from our clubs and teams. The Ridge Forensics team visited the Bronx Science High School, and some, like myself, finaled in their event. The Ridge Marching Band will participate this weekend here at Ridge after competing last weekend at MetLife Stadium. Despite the chaos, Ridge College Fair had roughly 106 colleges. It was a huge success. The theater club started working on Act 3 just today, and opening night is about 4 weeks away. The Ridge Culture Club is getting ready to celebrate Italian Heritage Month next Thursday by teaching, dancing, and enjoying Zeppelins during lunch. We also had Brisas Empanadas, the company, come to our school, and they had dancers, we had empanadas for the students to receive, and also a bunch of music that students had to enjoy. Project Adventure, a team bundling course for freshmen and sophomores, led by selected members of the juniors and senior class, will be meeting later this evening for their weekly meeting to prepare for their upcoming WARPS course. Regarding sports, winter sports are beginning to take place as the fall season draws to an end. After defeating Somerville 4-2, Ridge Boys Soccer advanced to the county semifinals, something they haven't done since 2009. This Friday, Ridge football's final regular season game. The playoffs begin this following week. Being undefeated, Ridge Unified is getting ready for this Sunday's Special Olympics competition in Princeton. This Saturday is the county game as well for Ridge Field Hockey. So normally I would discuss about many accomplishments of the Ridge students, including club activities and sporting events, but I also wanted to address certain issues that are upcoming. Concerns have been raised by students such as Chromebook quality, student lack of sleep, school start times, recycling in our school, and the availability of feminine products within the restrooms. I wanted to be transparent with the parents and also people within the board that Ridge students are genuinely caring about. Besides that, the first round of college application deadlines is approaching for Ridge seniors, and it's often a very hectic time for all Ridge students. Please make sure to take notes of your students' stress levels and keep in mind that a lot has happened for them since their parents graduated from high school. Please remember to follow student government accounts and/or class counts to receive regular updates on their behalf. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anything for our student representative? Ms. Light.
Thank you very much for letting us know about those issues. Some of them are issues that are being taken up by the board, and we definitely appreciate that, so we'll see what we can do to help you guys out.
Yes, thank you. Please continue to bring any type of concerns like that up here. That'll bring us to board president's comments. Don't really have a lot for that tonight, except say we have a pre-packed agenda, starting with the board presentation, I believe. So I will just lead it right into there.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm really happy to see everybody, and I am pleased to be here tonight with the curriculum team, most of whom are seated over here, my fantastic team who have worked on this report with me. They will each come up when it's sort of their area's portion of the report, but I wanted to just note that I have Mr. Dave Hunter, the Supervisor of English Language Arts, Dr. Allison Reed, Supervisor of Special Education, Mr. Grant Colmer, Supervisor of K-12 Mathematics, Mr. Tom Miziak, Supervisor of Science and Technology, K-12, and Ms. Kathy Stotler, the Multilingual Supervisor, K-12. Thanks for coming. Okay, we have a packed presentation that we're here to present to you to share with you a lot of the work that we do in looking at how our students are doing. It is a state requirement that we report and share out the results of our students' performance on state assessments annually and within 60 days of when we receive those scores ourselves. So we will be covering results of 4 assessments. These are state assessments, and we'll talk in more detail in a few slides, but the NJ-GPA, Graduation Proficiency Assessment, taken in March of 2023, the NJ-SLA, the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, taken last May, Access for ELS, also taken last year by our multilingual learners, and dynamic learning maps taken by some of our special education students. We will talk to you about our analysis of the data and what we plan to do about it. So we'll highlight some areas of strength as well as areas warranting some further exploration and the things that we have put and are putting in place for those areas. At the end, I'll just briefly also share with you the spring testing schedule because it's coming up soon. All right, we're going to start with the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment. As I said, this is the Graduation Proficiency Assessment. This is taken by juniors in March of their junior year. It measures what they consider their graduation readiness in ELA, English Language Arts, and mathematics. It is aligned to the content from ELA 10, so 10th grade English Language Arts, and it is aligned to algebra and geometry in mathematics. This is a portion, is this the clicker right here? No. I'm using Tom's clicker, so where's the? All right, no, the.
Oh, you want the laser?
I want the laser.
That button right there.
I'm gonna turn it off. All right, never mind, no pointer.
The center
All right, thank you, the center thing. This is a portion of what the score report looks like when it's received by parents in Genesis, which I'll show you how to get to later, but this shows you the scale of what is considered graduation ready or not graduation ready. So the passing or graduation ready score is 725 out of a scale of 800. There is also a scale score within that range where you can see how the students did within each range of graduation ready or not graduation ready. So state law requires this graduation proficiency assessment, but I want to note that this is the first year that the seniors are actually being held to it. Last year's seniors were to be the first group to be required to meet this graduation proficiency assessment, but over the summer before last year's senior year, the state determined that the assessment in its first year was going to be a pilot and that they would not be required to meet any graduation assessment requirement at all. So this year's seniors will be the first group who are required to meet this assessment requirement. This past May 3rd, the State Board of Education did a couple of things. They changed the cut score from 750, which is what the cut score was, the passing score was last year, to 725. And they also revised the list of what's called the alternative pathways. So when the students are required to take the NJGPA, if they take the assessment but do not meet the cut score, then they are permitted to utilize a number of alternative pathways to meet the graduation assessment requirement. That list of alternative pathways was revised, as well as the approved cut scores for those alternative pathways. So there's a number of things the students can do if they don't meet the cut score in the first time that they take it in March. They can retake it in the fall, and we administered that just last week. They can utilize one of the alternative pathways at any time, which includes the SAT, the ACT, the PSAT, the AccuPlacer assessment. So they can do that at any time. And then if they still don't meet that score, like in the test that was administered last week, and they don't meet an alternative pathway, the last pathway is a portfolio appeal, which we would administer to them sometime after we get those scores back from the state. So this slide shows you a breakdown of our student scores. So they would be our current seniors who took this last year when they were juniors. There were 428 valid scores, and you can see a couple of things as we go across this chart from left to right. First, it shows both the results from both ELA and mathematics. The second column, average scale score, shows you how our students did. The average scale score out of a scale of 800, I'm sorry. That's our average score as compared to the state. That's the state average. These two columns break the students into those who were not graduation ready and those who were graduation ready. So this is the number and percentage of students who were not graduation ready as compared to the number at the state level who were not graduation ready. So you see we had 2.6% of our students in ELA were not graduation ready, and 8.9%, or 38 students, were not graduation ready in mathematics. So as a comparison, now I told you that last year's scores were waived, or the state did not hold students to passing, but we did get the results, and so we show you that from last year to this year, our students' scores improved by 6.7 points, correct, Mr. Colmer, percent, thank you, and 3.1% in mathematics. Now, of those students who were not graduation ready, 11 in ELA and 38 in mathematics, there were 40 unique students, right? So in a couple of cases, students didn't meet the cut score on both content areas. In ELA, of the 11, 8 of those students were able to meet the graduation requirement utilizing one of the alternative pathways. And in mathematics, of the 38 students who did not earn the cut score, 32 of those students met the graduation requirement through an alternative pathway. So what we have remaining are 7 unique students who we will continue to work with to meet that graduation assessment requirement, including administering the fall assessment to them last week. This week we're in makeups. We also look at the scores by subgroup. So when looking at the subgroups, it is a subgroup is determined with groups of students with at least 20 students in the group. You'll notice that in these groups in the middle, Black or African American, 2 or more races, multilingual learners, and economically disadvantaged, we have fewer than 20 students. So for a matter of privacy, we do not report out on their scores. But this shows you the percentage of students who were graduation ready or not graduation ready in all of the subgroups where we can report out on. And of note, I would say that The subgroup with the largest group of students not graduation ready are in our students with disabilities group, students with an IEP or a 504. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back and just point out that this was ELA, English Language Arts, and that these are now the subgroup scores in mathematics. So just a little bit higher. Remember, there were more students in the mathematics group, but I would also point out that the numbers are not going to add up to 100. Students can be in more than one group, and they can be represented in more than one group. So it just shows you within whatever groups the students are in, those percentages of graduation ready and not graduation ready. So in this area in mathematics, our highest subgroups would be the Hispanic group and the students with disability group of students who did not meet the cut score with the first pathway. So in our analysis of these scores from this really spring, summer when we received them to now, these are the things that we are focused on. So first of all, you might have seen, right, the subgroup with the highest not passing rate were the students with disabilities. So that is an area of focus for us to look at their performance and needed interventions to, one, pass the graduation assessment requirement now, but also to continue to support them for the rest of their senior year before they head off to their post-secondary plans. And then this list of interventions mostly represents our newer initiatives and things we're doing in response to the data. But the first, it includes the implementation of a new course, the Graduation Assessment Preparation course. We had actually approved it and written it to run last year, but when the state waived the requirement, we did not run the course, right? It wasn't needed to help students pass the course. So it is running this year for the first time to support those students who had not met the requirement at the beginning of school. And as they meet the requirement, they can probably leave the course unless they continue to want to receive that support. But the goal of that course is to help them meet the graduation assessment requirement and graduate high school. We did just administer the fall NJGPA. We also are taking a look at the scores with our teaching staff. As I mentioned, it's a newer assessment, so breaking down the results that we get at test question and subject level will help us kind of see where we can look at our curriculum and our instruction for future administrations of it as we continue to look at those results over time. We do a lot to support students to meet one of the alternative pathways, not just encouraging them to take the SAT or the ACT, but also the AccuPlacer at Raritan Valley College has a testing center, and we even we offered a bus of kids to take kids to RVCC this summer so that they could take the assessment. And so in case they needed some transportation, and a couple of students were successful utilizing that route. And we continue to review these results as the year goes on. So that's the New Jersey GPA, the NJGPA. We're going to turn over now to the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment. Before I turn it over, I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of what the NJSLA is. So this is the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment aligned to the New Jersey Core Content Standards. It is administered really by course, according to the course that students are in. So in grades 3 through 9, English Language Arts, students would take an assessment aligned to the course that they just completed. And in grades 3 through 8, Math, or if they're in Algebra 1, or Algebra 2, or Geometry, they would take an assessment aligned to the course that they were in, as well as grades 5, 8, and 11 Science. So you will hear some results from all of those assessments in a minute. This is the scale that you would see on the score report. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it is a scale of 5, and a 4 is required to be considered meeting expectations or passing. And then there is a scaled score within each range of performance levels, proficiency levels. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Huncher to talk about English Language Arts.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lux. Good evening. So similar to the reported results for NJGPA, I'll take you through several different ways that we report out on and analyze student results in English Language Arts. You will see a similar presentation with the math slides as well. But to start off the English Language Arts analysis and reporting section, we should be very proud of our student performance this year in English Language Arts. We continue to outperform the state in the percentage of levels 4 and 5. Those are the level of students meeting or exceeding expectations. All tested cohorts, except one, increased in proficiency from 2022, so our recovery continues. We saw notable increases from the prior year test administration in grade 5, grade 6, and grade 8 in English language arts. So here's one way that we analyze and report out on the data. So on the left-hand side, you can see the grade levels tested, grades 3 through 9 in English language arts. Moving from left to right, you can see the number of valid test scores in each grade level. So for example, 304 students tested in grade 3, and that represents a 98% participation rate. So in this column, you can see that our participation rates remain very high, with an exception at the high school. 92% is our lowest, but grades 3 through 8, we are at or near 100%. Moving from left to right, you see the levels of performance, level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the percentages in each one of those columns represents the percentage of students who achieved level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4, or level 5. So as an example, in grade 3, 6.6% of students achieved a level 1, which is not meeting grade level expectations. 7.9% level 2, partially meeting expectations. Level 3, 18.8%, approaching expectations. Level 4, 55.6% of students meeting grade level expectations in grade 3. And level 5, 11.2% of students exceeding grade level expectations. The second to last column from your right is the combined percentage of students meeting or exceeding grade level expectations in the district. 66.8% in grade 3, as compared to 42% of New Jersey students meeting or exceeding grade level expectations in grade 3. So as you can see in English language arts, many of our grade levels are at or above 80%, and grade 3 is one of the grade levels that we will be looking to investigate further. This next slide shows that same percentage, those students meeting or exceeding grade level expectations, but over the past 5 administrations of the NJSLA. You can see in the middle, 2020 and 2021, students did not test. The state canceled the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment for those years. So we have the past 5 administrations. Again, on the left-hand side, you can see the grade levels tested, grades 3 through 9. And I should explain the traffic light color scheme to the right. So the red highlight represents a decrease greater than 1%. The yellow highlight represents a decrease between 1% and 0%. And the green highlight represents an increase above 1%. So as you can see, there's a lot of green on these slides. So we see the performance of students year over year, and we do 2 different kinds of analyses. One, we do test to test, where there's different students testing, but it's the same test administered. So for example, in grade 3, in 2017, 73% of students met or exceeded grade level expectations. In 2018, same test, different students, 70% of students in grade 3 in 2018 met or exceeded, and so on and so forth. So when you look at the last 2 administrations, and grade 2, for example, grade 3, 70% of students in 2022 met or exceeded grade level expectations, and that dropped in 2023 to 0.8% of students. And that represents a decline of 3.3%. Now, looking at a cohort analysis where we're tracking the same students over time, if you look at grade 3 in 2022, 70.3% of students in 2022 met or exceeded grade level expectations. But those same students taking the grade 4 test in 2023, 78.7% of students met or exceeded grade level expectations. And that's an increase of 8.6%. So we look to track not only grade level performance, but cohort performance over time. And these kinds of analyses help us target our interventions and our work with teachers and students in the upcoming school year. This slide, again, represents the percentage of students meeting or exceeding grade level expectations. But you can see along the left-hand side, we have the state percentage of students meeting or exceeding grade level expectations in each of the grade levels, followed by the district, and then the schools in the district. And again, this is another way for us to look at the data and target our interventions. You'll see that the school average for the middle and the high school is the same percentage as the district average because we have one high school and one middle school. So for example, the district average in grade 6 is 84%, and that's the same as the school average for grade 6. And that's a very high percentage, I must add. 84% of 6th grade students at WEMS met or exceeded grade level expectations, as compared to 49% of all New Jersey students. So again, very proud of our students and our teachers. As Ms. Fox explained, we also do a demographic subgroup analysis of the data. So if you look at the second column from the left, we have the count of valid test scores in grades 3 through 9. And so, as an example, there were 221 Hispanic students who took a grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 test. And the percentage increase or decrease that you see in that second column from the left represents how that demographic group increased or decreased from 2022 to 2023. So we have an increase of 0.4% in the Hispanic population in our district who tested. And so, as we did in prior slides, you can see the analysis of those students who met or exceeded grade level expectations on the very right-hand side, as well as each level of performance for each demographic subgroup that's greater than 20. And as an example, we would target our analysis of any subgroup below 50% as a starting place. So we would target our interventions looking at multilingual learners as well as students with disabilities. Areas warranting further investigation, similar to what you saw with the NJGPA. So in ELA, for the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, we would look at the performance of the 2023 grade 3 and grade 8 cohorts. And we would also want to investigate further the performance of multilingual and special education subgroups. Now, some of the interventions that we have in place. One of them will continue to provide instructional support programming as an additional support to students not yet meeting grade level expectations. At the middle school, we have instituted at the end of last year, now continuing into this year, Learning Lab every Wednesday, which provides dedicated time for students needing support, not just in English language arts, but in a variety of subject areas. But that is another opportunity for us to support students. We also offer a study strategies course at the middle school. After taking the NJSLA and prior to reporting these results, over the summer we provided a summer intervention program for elementary instructional support students as a way to support student achievement. The district is looking at the high impact tutoring program for 3rd and 4th grade students that the state is offering this school year. We continue to target professional learning opportunities and leverage resources to support literacy instruction, and we work with our teachers to perform item level analysis as well as individual student analysis in order to identify not just grade level goals where students need additional instruction and practice, but also identify any curriculum gaps. We also want teachers to review individual student results and target their instruction to meet the students' needs in their class. In terms of intervening and supporting the multilingual learners, we have tutoring, not just for multilingual learners, but also for immigrants. We continue to target professional learning around multilingual learners as well, offering training to staff, and we are increasing sections of ESL and academic support in the middle and high schools to decrease class size and give more attention to individual students. And we now have a dedicated ESL teacher in 4 of the 6 schools in the district. And at this point, I'd like to turn over to Mr. Grant Colmer, Supervisor of Mathematics.
Thanks, Mr. Hunter. Boy, I love listening to Dave, too. So it's my pleasure to be here this evening just to present the 2023 New Jersey Student Learning Assessment results in mathematics with the board and with the public. So thank you very much, Mr. Hunter, for going through all of the different slides, because the same formatting is in mathematics, so some efficiencies can be had. All right, so starting out, so just wanted to know some notable achievements in the area of mathematics. As will be shown, we continue to outperform the state. That's in English language arts and in mathematics, and that's our current only side-by-side metric in obtaining level 4 and 5s in our students for our proficiencies. Our highest performance, though, did occur within our areas of number and quantity. In relating to number and quantity, operations and algebraic thinking, ratios and proportions, reasoning, and geometry. And so some notable increases also from last year within Math 5, Math 6, Math 8, and geometry. So here is the slide that Dave so eloquently was able to articulate. This is the chart that shows our students' performance at various grade levels and subject areas in mathematics, along with the state results as a comparison in the last column on the right. The different columns representing, of course, the different levels of student performance, and the second last column indicating our percentage of students who met or exceeded grade level expectations for our district. So the number of valid test scores are also shown, along with our participation rate. And notably, we have high participation rate, the only exception being Algebra 1 at the high school and Geometry at the high school, with less than 95% of our students taking that assessment. So as noted before, as well, we outperform the state in our assessments, and our students do a great job. We have observed, though, in the past few years, our state assessments contain a notable gap between our high school and middle school Algebra 1 results. We've seen similar performance, though, in math and in Algebra 1 at the high school, but we continue to support those students' proficiencies in mathematics, particularly in preparing them for the high school graduation assessment, which you heard about from Ms. Fox in grade 11, utilizing a lot of various supports that we have in place, particularly our support program and our seminar classes. So as note, though, unlike English language arts, starting in grade 7, students in the same grade level take different New Jersey Student Learning Mathematics assessments. For example, the 113 students you see in Math 8 shown on the chart make roughly up about 30% of our students' overall math 8th grade population, with over 70% of our students taking Algebra 1 or Geometry in 8th grade. So a further breakdown of those scores are shown on the next slide, but I have to prepare you, there are a lot of numbers. They're gonna be shown and they're very small, so just a little caveat. Are you ready? Thank you, that's good laughs. Okay, here, I told you, there's a lot up here. And partly this is just to give some breakdown of seeing performance of our students in a different way. So this chart shows both the year over year and the cohort trend analysis that we are actually obligated to do by the state. The chart shows a comparison of the 2017, 18, 19, 2022, and 2023 NJSLA administrations. And the percentages, again, are shown for the levels of 4 and 5. Those are meeting or exceeding grade level expectations in each administration. With the last two columns between the 2021 and 2022 and 22-23 school years relative to year over year and our cohort. So for example, in grade 4, in 2023, 81.3% of the students achieved level 4 or level 5, whereas in the past school year, 82.1% of the students achieved a level 4 and a 5. That difference of less than 1% between the spring of 22 and spring of 23 is highlighted in yellow in the second to last column and represents the year-over-year analysis. However, the cohort of fourth grade students from last year had an overall increase in their third grade performance of 2.8%. And those are highlighted sort of in a pink box to give you sort of the visualization of where those students are performing. Some traffic light, although an added new color in there is orange, and that is because the orange represents some positive and some decreases overall. So some same color schemes, but it does get more complicated in math, as we see. As mentioned in the previous, starting in 7th grade, students do not necessarily take their same grade level assessment in mathematics. For example, in grade 8, those 3 different assessments, students could take either the grade 8 assessment, Algebra 1, or Geometry, and those levels of 4 and 5 performance are outlined on this chart, which is the further breakdown, which is why it's a little bit more comprehensive. So an example of that in Math 8, if you follow the chart from left to right, we see that 31.9% of the students this past school year achieved a level 4 and a 5. In Algebra 1, those students in 8th grade in Algebra 1 saw a level 4 or 5 performance of 84.2%, and our geometry students in 8th grade met or exceeded 100% of those students. Not one person got a score below a 4. However, there's one added note that's in there, additionally into the total percentage, though, of students in 8th grade, taking into account all 3 of those tests administrations, that is denoted by the 8th grade, and that was representing 70.9% of our total 8th grade students met or exceeded. And with that, we can do a little bit of a cohort analysis, even though we have different assessments. In 7th grade, you see the same chart and breakout between Math 7 and Algebra 1, with the total 7th grade meeting or exceeding grade level expectations last year was 73.3%, and this year was 70.9%, and so that represents a decrease of a 2.4% cohort performance. So it's one of our areas warranting further exploration. Moving down the table, the data again is separated in Algebra 1 results for Wayams and at Ridge. And some other items to note just out there, our geometry performance across the grade levels is at its highest it's been since 2018. There's also notable achievements, as mentioned, in Math 8 and Algebra 1 at the high school, although maybe not as high as a percentage we would like. That population of students who sometimes struggle to find success, we're really happy to see that growth and our continued commitment for the performance on this assessment. And while there are variations, increases, decreases across the various tests, our overall student performance remains strong, showcasing our dedication to our students and both our educators that are within those classrooms. Okay, next this chart shows the performance of students who achieved a level 4 and a 5 on the different grade levels and subject areas mathematics assessments broken out by each school, along with the district and state percentages, as Mr. Hunter noted. Again, each school well outperformed or exceeded the proficiency rates of the state. As noted in ELA, there are variations of performance across the schools and within grade levels for a particular school. Those differences, though, help us identify areas of further focus, either district-wide or within grade levels for a particular school. Also, you can see the breakdown, whereas ELA, we do have different populations of students taking Algebra 1 and Geometry, so those are broken out by those 2 schools. Again, highlighting from the previous charts. Here's the subgroup outcomes for the 2023 school year for mathematics. As noted in the ELA section, according to the sort of the Elementary Secondary Education Act, a minimum group size is 20, so those are with the asterisks that we see. The number of valid test scores are found on the left, along with the increase or decrease of that population size relative to each subgroup. So when comparing to last year's results, we did see some notable increases in our Asian, Hispanic, male, multilingual learners, and white subgroups. Areas warranting further exploration that we've identified for those subgroups whose overall performance were less than 50% do include our economically disadvantaged students, multilingual learners, and our students with disabilities. So some areas that are warranting further exploration include our performance in grade 3. We did see a decrease in that percentage. Also our Algebra 1 at the middle school, which I noted before, and our current 8th grade and 9th grade cohorts. We would like to see something on our slides that we showed before, just to see some of the data and some deeper analysis of that student performance. In addition, some performance of our multilingual learners, economically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities, as noted before. So the interventions, strategies in these areas look very similar to the English language arts, as many of those programs overlap. So these include the Learning Lab study strategies at WAMS, the Summer Intervention Program for elementary students, our Continued Comprehensive Instructional Support Program, the potential for a high-impact tutoring program. We also are looking to increase our support for multilingual learners relative to their mathematical skill acquisition. And the last 5 bullet points really represent the host of opportunities that we have for teachers to review and analyze their student performance and our student performance and our programming relative to how we can support. So I've already been starting to meet with those grade level teams and content areas to pore over the extensive data that we have and sort of identifies our glows and our grows for areas that we've identified here. So at this time, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Mr. Tom Misiak, the Science, Technology, and K-5 Health Supervisor, to present the science results.
Thank you very much, Mr. Colmer. So yes, I'm Tom Misiak. I am the Science and Technology Supervisor. You guys all look really excited for another set of data with similar tables. There are some key things we'll talk about in science, but it should come as no shock that this is a very high achieving district. So much like ELA and math, we do very well compared to the rest of the state. So as far as the testing goes, unlike ELA and math, we only test in grades 5, 8, and 11. This is somewhat of a change. We have tested in grades 5 and 8 for some time, but for those of you who have been around a little bit, you remember that it used to be a biology competency test prior to the state standards change. So prior to 2017, that was a 9th grade test for this district because the state assessed at the end of the biology course. So that has changed. It is now an 11th grade comprehensive test. So grades 5, 8, and 11 are all testing on the 3 strands of science: life, earth, and physical science. My scores, unlike ELA and math, are only scored on a 1 through 4 scale. There is no really good reason why the state chose a 4-point scale when ELA and math use a 5-point scale, but that is a very, very important thing to note when there are no 5s in science when I go on to my next slides. So to talk a little bit about that structure, there are those 3 strands of science. Our K-5 program does what's called a spiraling approach, where every year students will see a unit in earth science, unit in life science, and a unit in physical science. That then changes when they move on to the middle school. We go to a course-based system. 6th grade is a physical science course, 7th grade is a life science course, and 8th grade is an earth science course. It should come as no shock when we move on to breaking into that data that the physical science scores on the middle school test are our lowest subset of scores because the students are the furthest removed from that content. Conversely, our earth science scores within the 8th grade test are our best scores because the students are in that course when they take the test. 9 through 11 also is subject specific. We do 9th grade biology, 10th grade chemistry, and 11th grade physics. By the time our students are in physics, they are well prepared for the state's assessment. Earth science is found as topics throughout that. A good example would be Kepler's laws on rotation found within physics. So there is a similar looking table to what we have already seen with ELA and math. Again, noting that 4 is the highest score. So 3 and 4 are considered proficient passing scores. Compared to the state, we do very well. I want to point out as you look here that you see a dip at middle school within district, but also across the state. There's a lot of discussion, but we really haven't, at a state level, the supervisors, all those involved with curriculum, haven't quite been able to button up why you see that performance dip statewide at that middle school level. Another thing I want to point out on this slide is the participation rate at the 11th grade level. The science test has no bearing on graduation. So in March, juniors are asked to take the GPA, which Ms. Fox presented on, for graduation. While the rest of the school sleeps in, those students come in and test at the normal time. We then advance a couple weeks, and if they're in AP classes, students take all their AP exams those first couple weeks of May. And then we're asking them to come in when the rest of the school gets to stay home again at the end of May and take a test that has no bearing whatsoever on graduation. You can see we're prying high school kids out of bed to take another test at the end of May after they have been taking standardized tests since March, has limited results. So it is something we are looking into, but on a test that has no graduation bearing, something we struggle with. Again, pointing out some of the differences in these charts, I do not have the ability to cohort study science results because we only test in grades 5, 8, and now 11, and because the test has changed since 2017, many of these things have changed by the time my cohort has hit their next science assessment. So instead of delving into just the science results, we take a look at how a 5th grade cohort has done in science, and we look back at, well, what were they doing in ELA and math? And so there's a lot of conversation between myself, Mr. Hunter, and Mr. Colmer about how we're tracking those cohorts, and are we seeing similar trends? And yes, we are seeing similar trends when those cohorts hit their science assessments. Yeah, we don't want to go back to COVID. We're going to go through that slide. So here we take a look. Unlike Mr. Colmer, like we said, the tests are grade band specific, so I don't have anyone taking middle school content at the high school or vice versa, as he does with the mixed grade bands. So you can see the breakouts for the 4 elementary schools, but overall the district well above the state. Even at that middle school drop, well above the state, and the high school well above the state. Again, as you've heard from my previous 2 colleagues, these numbers are not going to add up because you have students who report in multiple subgroups, but there are some things we're looking at of concern. Specifically, when you come down here, I just lost it, we are looking at socioeconomically disadvantaged. It's starred out, but it is something we're concerned about. ELL is something we are concerned about, and that brings me to this next slide. That grade 5 cohort, like I said, we've been looking at them 3rd grade, 4th grade, moving into 5th grade, so now we'll be looking at them moving forward. How are they doing? It'll be some time before they take a science assessment, but we will use their ELA and math scores to kind of keep track and continue that intervention plan. The socioeconomically disadvantaged and Hispanic subgroups, and not to put the cart before the horse, I have a forthcoming science program eval. One of the discussions has been about adjustments to our middle school programming. As I said, we are currently a 6th grade physical science, straight out course, 7th grade life science, 8th grade earth science. The team is still looking at specifically what we would like to propose. It actually has not being driven by the state test whatsoever, but we do think that it will have positive impacts for our programming overall, including the results on that test. Similar to my colleagues, that LAMS Learning Lab is a huge resource for struggling learners. It is a great opportunity for them to get help and support. We're going to continue to leverage that. My teachers love data. They love to play in Excel, so anytime you give them data, when you put them in a room together, they look at that. They look at for ways that they can improve. It's their equivalent of, every NFL quarterback was looking at footage today. My people look at Excel spreadsheets. One of them is more fun than the other, but they would argue which that is. We are going to continue to target professional learning opportunities. We look for our PD to reflect our needs, and that's something we continue to do. And lastly, those K-5 meetings, it's really interesting to get them in a room together because when you have 4 different buildings delivering the same content, you have different teachers who have taken different approaches. And so if you look at that data, you'll see that some of the districts or some of the buildings had some strengths and some weaknesses that they can then share and report out on. And that's a really powerful thing, and we love when we can get them together and do that. Wow, I tried to rip that out because I know you guys are reaching your limit here. So now I'm going to turn things over to our multi-language supervisor, Ms. Stotler, and she will now take you into access for ELLs.
I can never make these things work. I'm going to use the space bar. My name is Kathy Stotler. I'm the supervisor of world languages and English language learners, but you're hearing terms like multilingual learners, ESL, ELL. That's because the Department of Education often likes to change names. So currently we are referring to our students as multilingual learners. Every year, the state of New Jersey, as well as about, I think, 35 states across the country, participate in the Access for ELLs test. This is a test that measures their English proficiency growth. Unlike science and math and English, it's very difficult for us to measure our multilingual learners' knowledge on those tests because we don't know if it's a matter of them not knowing English or them not knowing content. Whereas this test allows us to measure where our students' English language level is. And then we can track that from year to year to make sure they're making adequate growth. It is given annually to all of our students in the English ESL program, as well as students who opt out of the program. As you'll see on the next slide, we have a 6-point scale, by the way, so we win with the most scales, most levels. Students are allowed to exit ESL with a 4.5. That's when we're permitted to exit them. But some parents feel that they would prefer to have their child in the classroom, so they can opt out of our program, but by law, we're still required to test them. So when you see the next slide with the amount of students we tested, that is both students who we are working with on a day-to-day basis within our program, as well as students who have parents or families have decided to opt out of the program. The students are tested in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Depending on the grade level, it's either done from kindergarten, it's done one-on-one with our ESL teacher, and then whereas we get to 4th grade and up, it's completely online. And the levels of their proficiency are called entering, emerging, developing, expanding, bridging, and reaching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No 0. Everybody knows something. So let's take a look at the scores real quick. Last year, or this spring, shall I say, we had 129 students tested. As I said, about 10% of them are opt-outs. So this ranges, as you can see in the buildings, we have a growing population of English language learners, multilingual learners in every building. You'll also notice that we are not showing any growth. We don't have multiple columns. We don't have subgroups. The population is just so varied and changing every year that it's really difficult for us on a slide to tell you what our 5th graders did last year and what our 6th graders did this year, because that population changes and we're constantly entering and exiting students from the program. But I can tell you what we do with that information is really use it to inform our scheduling, our staffing, our supports for our students, and additional sections like you saw on previous slides. We've added additional support classes this year. We have 4 ESL teachers in the district. When I started here years ago, we had 2. So we really are using this data to make sure that we're supporting the students where they need. I think that's about it right now. Just, we have a growing population. I can tell you 129 students were tested last year, but as of today, we have 130 students in the program, not including the refusals. So you will see these numbers go up annually as our population changes in the town. Thank you. Oh, okay, Allison Reed, can you?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Allison Reed, and I'm a supervisor in the special education department. For some of our students, they don't take the NJSLA, and they then take the dynamic learning map. The dynamic learning map are alternate assessments designed for students with significant learning needs. In 22-23, approximately 1.8% of the student population took the DLM instead of the NJSLA. Eligibility to take this assessment is determined by the child study team based on a student's individual learning needs and abilities. The DLM is linked to the general learning standards, but is modified to match each student's learning abilities. The assessment results are categorized as emerging, approaching, at target, or advanced, indicating the level of skill demonstrated that align with those learning standards. For many of the students, the curricula are modified. Prerequisite skills are taught as part of their programming to help them get closer to these standards in areas like ELA, math, and similar to science, we assess in 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. Last year, we had 34 ELA students, 34 math students, and 18 students taking the science assessment. And that's all. I'm going to send it back to Ms. Fox.
All right, you made it through all the data.
I'm going to just wrap up. Thank you so much, team. That was great. A lot of data to cover, and certainly this will be posted tomorrow for anybody who wants to take a deeper dive into all of those numbers. But just to close up, for parents, I wanted to just point out a few things, resources, and schedules, things that might be useful to you as we go into this year. So the spring assessment schedule for 2024, which is also posted and updated with any changes, is March 11th through 14th is the important date for current juniors. That's the NJGPA. They are absolutely required to take it in order to utilize any alternative pathways and to meet the graduation requirement. So that is in a really important week, as well as the makeup week the following week. So that is that one. And then our spring schedule for all of the students in grades 3 through 9, 5, 8, 11 for science, is primarily happening in barely the end of April and into May. So you can see that these dates span, they're pretty similar in the elementary levels, and these are posted by building on the district testing calendar and the website. The links are also here. We do provide the results to the parents through a couple of means, primarily through the Genesis parent portal. So in September, when we received the individual student reports, they were uploaded, and you would find them by going to the parent portal, clicking on the Documents tab, and then you can see the list of anything that has been uploaded for your child. If you know that your child took an assessment that's not there, you would contact either a building administrator, counselor, or myself, and we could look into it for you. But if they took it, it would be here, and you could look at that individual student score report through Genesis. They look like this. I also show here the MAP report that we also post when the students take our local assessment called MAP into the parent portal. The state does provide a lot of resources for you to go to look at resources to help prepare or understand the assessments. They are linked here as well. You can get a little bit more information about the score report by taking the code right on your score report and creating an account at the state website that is linked on the score report. So there are some resources for you here, but I would probably argue that your child's best resource is their teacher, and to reach out to them if you have any concerns or you want to ask any questions about how you can help them prepare for any of these assessments. With that, that's it. I would like to know if any board members have specific questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Fox. And thank you to all the supervisors. I've got a little sneak preview of that at the curriculum committee, but that was a lot of information, and it was delivered succinctly and clearly, and I found it very informative, so thank you. That brings us to the superintendent's report. Mr. Marcairn.
Okay, thank you. So we just have two items. We have to approve our nursing plan annually and this board meeting's HIB report. Those are the only two. Thank you.
Can I have a motion on the two items? Mr. Salmon, Ms. Light? Any questions? Mr. Rollo?
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Light?
Yes.
Ms. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Amin?
Yes.
Ms. Chipak?
Yes.
And Mr. Rashio?
Yes.
Mr. Marcairn.
Thanks. I just had one other item I wanted to share, a quick pitch. We have a few Parent Academy events this week. The first one's actually tomorrow night. on intervention and support services. It is at 7 o'clock here in the Ridge High School PAC Lecture Hall. And then on Wednesday night, we have a presentation on our Lifelines Suicide Prevention Program for parents. That's also here at the Ridge High School PAC Lecture Hall. There is a link online for signing up for that one. And lastly, the town is hosting a virtual presentation on Thursday, October 19th, on their program to help families with suicide prevention training. So just a few things this week. I wanted to put a reminder out there for everybody. Thanks.
Anything for the superintendent? Okay, that's going to bring us to our first public comment on agenda items. If you have anything to speak on the agenda this evening, please come forward, sign in, state your name, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
So good evening, everybody. My name is Sumi Verma. I'm a resident of the Hills Basking Ridge community. I'm here for the first time, but I really do appreciate all the effort that you're all putting in making this a better place. I've been a treasurer in a school board earlier, so I know how much load or weight is on your shoulders, and I really do appreciate your efforts there. The reason I'm here and what I want to bring to your attention is that my son, who's an 8th grader, he has been allegedly a perpetrator of an HIB in the school. And the way the whole story confounded and the way the allegations have been is not something that is sitting well with me. So I wanted to come here as a concerned parent to share that with you and hope that you can understand where I'm coming from. So firstly, there was a small banter between a group of students which led to the HIB, and that HIB was confirmed from the school, and we were in touch with the school officials. And then secondly, we got a second HIB, which was supposedly happened the same day, but we were not notified immediately of that. And they were seemingly, my son completely denies of it, the second one. The first one, which happened, interestingly, there were 3 people who were in a banter. Nobody else has been convicted. He's the only one. And the way he and also we feel is that there might be an element of racial discrimination or maybe a disproportionate impact that might be having some impact on how this whole thing is playing out. Also, I want to bring to your attention that this has been a few weeks, and there has been a constant harassment that my son is going through in the school, because the people who have reported this incident have been going around spreading rumors. This is not just my son telling me. We went to drop him to the school, my husband, and went to pick him up, and we firsthand witnessed what was happening. Not only students from his grades, but students from a grade lower have also been coming and talking to him and asking him. And kids at this age can be really direct, and it is very hard for them for him to take it. He's been going through a very difficult time. He's been in our school system for 7 years. So I requested the administration to look at his school record, because personalities don't change overnight. He has always been commended for his good work. He's always been commended for helping new students acclimate in the class. But now, he is now coming, everybody's coming and asking him all kind of questions, and he's so close, he's stopped going to the sports. He doesn't want to go in the social gatherings. He doesn't want to go and talk to his friends. And I'm really concerned for his health and his mental health.
Excuse me, ma'am, your time is up.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Anybody else for public comment on agenda items? Sorry? Yes, tonight's agenda, yes. Okay, anybody else? Okay, that'll close public comment on agenda items. We'll have a second public comment on non-agenda items coming up. That brings us to approval. Oh yeah, Mr. Markarian, you want to jump in?
So thanks for your public comment. I think you emailed me as well. I'll give you a call tomorrow. We'll talk about it, okay? Thanks.
Okay, that brings us to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Salmon, Ms. Light? Any questions? Ms. Rolo?
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Light?
Yes.
Ms. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Amin?
Yes.
Ms. Chipak?
Yes.
And Mr. Rashio?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the Finance Committee report. There are 22 items under Finance. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. White? Ms. Light? Finance Committee report.
The Finance Committee committee met on the 12th of last week. Because the minutes are posted online, I'm going to give just a brief summary, keep this moving along. One of the items that we discussed was the free and reduced lunch. The New Jersey State has put in place a different set of income eligibility standards, which will increase the costs ever so slightly to the district for the students because we do not participate into the program, and it is decided as a district that we would cover that costs related to that. Some questions came up arising because those income eligibility standards are used to cover other things related to in-school activities, field trips, subscription busing, et cetera, and then to provide reduced cost of before and after care related to that. So we have some follow-up items that we're going to look towards that. However, the committee recommendation right now is to support the New Jersey guidelines and continue to move forward with the program. The second item was the ADA walkway, which we actually will be voting on an item for tonight. The expected bid came out about $80,000 more than what the contractors had estimated. So due to the bid exceeding the project budget, the committee recommends rejecting all or the only bid and determining next steps, because Mr. Rolo is actually going to reach out to the contractors who did submit the bid and reach out to the engineers to see where the discrepancies actually lie. We are putting out a cafeteria equipment bid, to replace things like refrigeration units, stoves, et cetera. So that's underway. That project is out to bid, and we believe the results will be available before the next meeting. And then, actually, this was actually kind of in a very finance dorky way, exciting for me, the capital projects. So Mr. Rolo actually did a great job connecting with the Small Business Direct Install Program that offers incentives and 0% financing to upgrade things like energy efficient lighting, HVAC, refrigeration controls, VFDs, ventilation, HVAC tune-up. So as a result of that, we got the estimates related to that, and when the Finance Committee actually looked to see the cost benefits, because part of this, what would apply, would cover our ROD grants depending on where we get them. So in doing a cost analysis of whether it would be better to proceed more quickly, it's determined that the net total 5-year cost after energy savings and monthly payment would be about $70,000 to the district total to replace, I believe it was 7 rooftop units and a lot of the lighting and fixtures within the Liberty Corner School. We've asked Mr. Rolo to look back into that to see if there's other things that would apply, and we've also asked to see what we could do to get some of the other schools online with the energy uses related to that. As an offset, when you're looking to the comparison of using the ROD grant versus that, the total 1 to 5 year cost, the net cash flow would actually have been $459,000. So by going through this program, we save about, $390,000 over a 5-year period. So I think it was kind of a no-brainer that the committee recommended that we move forward with this timeline, and then also look to see what other projects that we can do through this program in the state. Additionally, we're going to be replacing the Ridge Pack house lighting in here. It's gotten old and needs to be replaced, so that's going to be put on the budget. And then we're going to discuss some other things further in November. The budget calendar, basically, we've been working on the capital improvement portion of the budget, and the next step will be the personnel staffing number budget. So basically, the demographer's report is really going to get underway based on the October 15th results that we get supported to the state. So the BA's department is going to actually work with Sean on the staffing positions and get an estimate in that we can review, and then we'll evaluate that based on the demographer's report and the programming needs of the district, and we can always tweak the original recommendation for that. So that's what's going to be going on from a budgetary perspective. The next meeting is November 16th at 8 a.m.
Thank you. Any questions for finance? Mr. Salmon.
Jim, maybe you could just give a quick couple sentences about the direct install program and why Liberty Corner is the only school building that we have that's eligible for it. I think Kirsten touched on it it's about energy use, but there is a specific cutoff and, kind of that, so that everybody understands like why we're not waiting for the ROD grants to come through for this, and this is that much better.
Yeah, twofold. First, the small business direct install program is eligible to small businesses and school districts below a certain 12-month utility usage period. Two other elementaries may qualify, so I've asked the company to take another look at the 12 months utility bills to see what's possible there. As to the second point on the difference between this program and the ROD grant, one of the ROD grant projects that was approved included the Liberty Corner rooftop units. And so there's a decision to decide, do we do these units as part of the direct install program, or do we do the ROD grant, do we do them with the ROD grant, or do we do both? There's a lot more constraints and strings attached to the ROD grant, the most significant of which is you can't go out to bid and award it before the state has given the board its final eligibility cost letter, which we have no indication of when that could come. So coupled with the fact that we can't move on it sooner and implement these energy saving cost reduction measures until we have that, and the fact that the incentive is higher with the direct install anyway, it made the most sense to go the direct install route for this project instead of trying to double dip and hit both.
And just to add to that, I think one of the major issues with the ROD grant is that you have to actually shell out the money right off the bat, which loses some interest money, and we could be using that elsewhere for the district.
Yeah, that's correct. With the direct install, the incentives are taken off the top, and only the local share is the only portion that comes out of the board's coffer.
Anyone else for finance? Just one thing I want to point out in the minutes, and I just want to confirm it, because I've heard about it from a bunch of people attending events at Lee Field. Next Finance Committee meeting, you guys are going to be talking about upgrading the PA system there.
Yes, that was referred to finance, and Mr. Rollo is actually gathering some more information so that we'll have an update next meeting.
Okay. Any other questions for finance? Mr. Rollo?
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Light?
Yes.
Ms. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Amin?
Yes.
Ms. Chippak?
Yes.
And Mr. Rauschio?
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us to personnel. On the original agenda, there were 26 items. I believe we have several addendums.
Yeah, there's an addendum. It's up to 37 items. We're tabling 29.
Up to 37 items. Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
Tabling 29.
Yep. Mr. Salmon, Ms. Light. Personnel Committee report, please.
There is none. We're meeting this Friday.
Okay, so we're tabling item 29?
Correct.
Okay. All in favor, show of hands for that. Table item number 29. Okay. And any questions on the rest of the items under personnel? Okay. Mr. Rollo.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Light?
Yes.
Ms. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Amin?
Yes.
Ms. Chibok?
Yes.
And Mr. Ascio?
Yes.
Okay, that's going to bring us to the Policy Committee report. There are 2 items under policy. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Light? Ms. White? Policy Committee report.
Sorry, I'm trying to pass stuff out and talk at the same time. Can you pass one of each of these? Okay, the Policy Committee met on October 2nd. First, we had a discussion about adopting a new policy that we don't currently have on unmanned aircraft systems, which are basically drones. The district has not had a policy on this. About 8 years ago, we added language to the facilities use form saying that motorized vehicles and drones are not permitted on district property without permission. Ridge has a drone that they use to take some aerial photos, like on Lee Field and things like that. So there are times when they are using a drone. More recently, questions have arisen when other people wanted to use drones to take photos. So we have a policy from Strauss-Esme that lists the situations in which the district could approve the use of drones. The Policy Committee recommends the adoption of this policy. So it's not on for first reading yet today, right? It's going to go on, I guess, next time. The second thing that we discussed was the draft of the 2026-27 school calendar, which I just passed out copies to the board members in case they didn't have time to look it over in the policy minutes. This is a draft of a school calendar for that year, which includes Eid as a holiday, as we discussed at the last meeting. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or concerns about that. It will go on in November for first reading. Yeah.
The date for Eid that we have, is that like aligned to the state calendar? How do we come up with that date?
Nick, where you were looking it up when we were at the meeting.
The state.
The state calendar? Okay.
Yeah.
I have one question. I seem to remember Chinese New Year that we were going to, that came into effect, I think, in the 25-26 school year.
I don't think we added Chinese New Year.
You
no.
don't think we did? Okay.
No, we didn't have any requests for that as a holiday.
Okay, I thought there was a policy meeting last year where we discussed that, but it fell on a weekend, so we were going to address that as well. No? Okay, so we should probably look at that.
So the change for Eid is on the agenda for tonight, policy 8210 for
Right,
first
yeah,
reading.
I was going to say that when we get
Yeah,
down there.
okay, yeah. And we actually
Yeah.
did put the unmanned.
Oh, it is on here? Sorry, I didn't even look
Drones are on there
down.
too,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But if we're going to make other changes to the calendar policy, board would have to refer that
Right,
back
so
to
first
policy.
reading, there is first reading of the policy with
For
the
the
addition
change
of
for Eid, yeah.
on here tonight.
Any other questions for policy?
I have a couple more things that I just wanted to do the calendar
Sorry
first.
about
Okay, so then we had a policy alert where we went through different alerts from Strauss-Esme for changes of policies. A lot of them were just very minor changes in language for things that came from the state. Let's see, there's one about the right of privacy that says audio and visual recording by students or visitors in classes is prohibited without approval of the principal or supervisor. I think that was one that we discussed a little bit. There was changes to the sick leave policy. The state laws changed, so we had to abolish a couple policies and change a couple policies associated with that. Let's see. There was a state, the state has new language about the eligibility of residents and non-resident students about collecting tuition. So we have to get clarity on how we handle it if someone moves in the middle of the year. But other than that, it doesn't affect how we've been handling things at this point. So we may have to readdress that policy if we get different information. We abolished a couple policies for the Bridge Year pilot program because that program is not in effect. That was where students could stay because of COVID for another year or two in our special education program. And then there was the policy about food services, which reflects what Kirsten reported about in finance about changing the eligibility for free and reduced lunch. So now there's no such thing as reduced lunch, there's just free lunch, and the eligibility has changed slightly. And then for first reading tonight, we have board committees, which I reported out on last time, which was changing the language for how we handle alternates for committees and rotating the fourth member through three-person committees. So we discussed that last time, but it's on for first reading. There's the sick leave policies on there for first reading that we talked about. The school threat assessment teams I reported out last time, the school calendar, which we just discussed, and then the board member use of electronic communication and email. I passed out copies of that because we had just changed that one in May, and I just wanted to make sure everybody has had time to look at it and read through it before we vote on first reading of it. So you guys have it there, and it has the new language. Trying to clarify that if board members get an email to their board email, then the board member, if it's to the whole board, the superintendent and board president decide how it's going to be answered. If it's to an individual board member, then they're supposed to work with Nick about how to answer that. And then it talks about if you get an email to your personal email or text or whatever, that the best practice is to either tell the person to send it to your board email or forward it to your board email and then go through the same process. So does anyone have any questions about that language in there? Jen?
At the last meeting, Mr. Giacoppi said you used Mr. Markarian as the hub, right? So all emails really should go through Mr. Markarian. So I just want to clarify to make sure I understand, because it gets a little confusing that if it comes to your personal email, right, and then you forward it to your board email, are we still then, Mr. Markarian's still the hub, so are you, right? So despite that, we should still be letting Mr. Markarian as opposed to we respond. I just want to make sure that's correct.
That's 100% correct. The reason that I wanted to go to your official email is for Oprah purposes, so we can maintain it. We can't maintain your private email. But as Robin just said, once you forward it to your official email, you should follow the same procedure, which is it goes to Nick, and Nick will respond or have the appropriate person respond for you.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Rollo.
I do have one more question, I'm sorry. So are we approving Eid tonight and then referring back for, just to analyze the Chinese New Year issue?
Eid is first reading tonight on the policy.
Okay.
That doesn't preclude you from looking at the Chinese New Year at a future date.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Rollo.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Light?
Yes.
Ms. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Amin?
Yes.
Ms. Tripak?
Yes.
And Mr. Rashio?
Yes.
Okay, that's going to bring us to curriculum. I don't believe there's a report tonight, but do you have anything, Mr. Salmon?
Yeah, just a little interim report about a textbook recommendation from the staff. So we did meet on October 6th, but I'll be doing the full report at the next meeting. Mr. Fackelman is the Director of Fine Arts and what else? Fine and Practical Arts, sorry, okay. He is, and his team are recommending a new textbook for the financial literacy course at Ridge. The book is called Focus on Personal Financial Literacy. It's the high school first edition. The publisher is McGraw-Hill. Financial literacy is a semester course offered at Ridge that is a graduation requirement. It is open to all students in grades 9 through 12. There are currently 15 sections, which is about 336 students set for this school year to take the class. The course is also offered over the summer during a 6-week period, which is the same content as the school year course, but condensed into 6 weeks. Mr. Fackelman explained that the teachers would like to purchase the new edition of the textbook that the district is currently using and has been using. The teachers reviewed a few different textbooks, but using the updated version of the current textbook would allow the course structure and curriculum to remain substantially similar. The book will be available for review at the board office. Thank you.
Ms. Light.
Will we have access to that electronically?
It's McGraw-Hill. Kristen, are we going to get the financial literacy book on electronically?
Funny, nobody asked him at the meeting, but I'll look into that tomorrow.
Okay,
The physical copy.
The physical copy's in the board
Yeah.
office, but I will look into that tomorrow.
That's kind of a dry thing, so I'd actually kind of read it on
Sure.
my own.
Any other questions for curriculum? Okay, that's going to bring us to wellness. I believe there is a report this evening.
Yes. We met September 28th. We reviewed the dates for the remaining meetings for the school year. And then Ms. Smith gave us an opening on how school, an update on how the school opening went. She shared that the goal is for all students to be in the classes that they best fit. The counseling department had continued to process requests that could be made until the 10th day of school to either level up or level down, and the requests had slowed down and were on par with what had been expected. Mrs. O'Connell gave a brief overview of how the start of the school year had gone as well for special education students, and reported it was very helpful having the CSTs come in early this year in order to make sure that students were where they needed to be. Services are being provided to students that are on the counselor's radar, but at the time of this meeting, it was still too soon to tell what new issues may arise or to determine what the trends might be this year. At Ridge, high school events such as senior night presentations have taken place, and there was a great turnout to this presentation, which has also been recorded. Since the evening, there have been 100 views of the presentation, and parents have reached out with follow-up questions as well as to offer feedback. The checklist document that's provided to seniors as they ready themselves for submitting college applications was revised to empower students. The final product is easy to read and clearly outlines the steps needed to properly complete and submit applications. The first Ridge Counseling Newsletter of the year was sent out, which highlights important information for seniors with links and resources, as well as includes information on college representative visits. There are already over 100 college representatives scheduled to come to the college fair and meet with students. A list of events planned for the year are as follows. The college fair was just on October 12th. The junior year post-secondary planning presentation is November 29th. Financial aid information night, December 6th. Sophomore year post-secondary planning presentation is January 4th. And transitioning to college with an IEP is on April 4th. Dr. Lazovic shared that there will be some counselor workshops offered during unit lunch opportunity periods for students on topics such as essay writing and completing the common applications, just to name a few. The idea is to select topics that will be appealing and helpful to students. Feedback will be collected in order to make the workshops as beneficial as possible. And about 10 students attended the first essay writing workshop, which just took place a few weeks ago. Effective School Solutions will be offering parent workshops, which will run December through June. The workshops will be in depression in children and adolescents, supporting students with stress and worries, how to talk to kids and survive, social media strengthening, caregiver connectivity, and mental health survival guide, surviving summer break. An Internet Safety Parent Academy is also being planned, and the dates for these workshops will be listed on the website. We also heard about the first in-service day on October 4th. Ridge students had a wellness day in the morning. Each grade had a class meeting devoted to wellness, and then the PTO sponsored a guest speaker, Andrew Michenard, who has been extremely well received by our students on past visits when he shared his experiences with drugs and alcohol. It's a serious topic, and his perspective really impacts students. He was an athlete who made a poor decision, and he didn't get the help because no one thought a student such as himself would need it. He shared his experience with all grade levels, from what happened to him to how he's gotten to where he is. And then the seniors had a session devoted to the college piece, and there was also a section for students to gather and spend time with their grade level. We then had an update on the Lifeline Suicide Prevention Program. It's a continuation of a 3-year partnership that was secured through a county grant and has been very well received by staff. As reported previously, crisis training took place in April and May. Intervention training took place in June and September, where SACs and counselors from all schools were provided up-to-date information on youth suicidality with a focus on conversation approach to supporting youth in crisis. Prevention training continued in September with PE and health teachers from the middle school and high school, as well as counselors from all schools on implementing a comprehensive suicide prevention program. The program includes adult components for school faculty and staff and parents and guardians. The student portion of the suicide prevention program is evidence-based and will be taught in grades 6, 7, 9, and 12 through their health classes this year. Lifeline spent a day with teachers this summer to help best determine where the content should be placed. Ongoing consultation and support from Empower Somerset and our Lifelines trainer will continue this year. Parent Guardian Workshop on Prevention will be on October 18th, and full faculty and staff trainings will be held at every building this fall. And lastly, we were given an update on the Parent Academy series. There's now a tab on the Berners-Bow website that lists by month all upcoming events for parents. They're organized into two categories: core events and all other educational opportunities. The Parent Academy includes all meetings, events, and educational opportunities that are designed to provide parents with the information and tools to maximize the educational outcomes for their children. Core events are typically key experiences that apply to all parents, and they should attend these at least once at appropriate times throughout their child's K-12 experience. Other educational opportunities may be aimed towards specific topics or specific to the needs of individual students. The first of these parent academies was held September 26th, Navigating District Resources, which was extremely helpful to those who came, but unfortunately there was a small turnout. Following this presentation, the Resources for Parents and Students was launched on the district website, and all information can now be found very easily. And our next meeting will be October 26th.
Thank you. Any questions for wellness? I think Dr. Lasovic's counselor workshops with essay writing is an excellent idea. It's like a small cottage industry in this town. Parents having to hire essay counselors for their kids. It'd be great if that could be advertised in the Friday folder or something too. Let parents know about it too, so they can encourage their children to take advantage. All right. So nothing else for wellness? Moving on to facilities and operations. I believe there is a report this evening.
There is a report. We met October 5th. The Varsity Field Project, Boswell Engineering submitted the DEP paperwork, although it was noted that they did not submit it on time. Concerns have been historically raised by residents on the east side of North Maple Avenue regarding water runoff. The team is currently preparing data and calculations related to the water runoff from the proposed sports complex. It was acknowledged that the county will pay close attention to these numbers, ensure that our water storage underneath the fields will be adequate not to increase water flow. The DEP is expected to provide updates in the coming weeks with a final decision anticipated by the end of November or early December. Work order status: Dave Cooney of Aramark will begin reporting to Mr. Rollo on a weekly basis, focusing on open work orders and maintenance deficiencies. Tim Knight of Aramark, the regional manager, has been made aware of the district's new goals and found them to be reasonable. Currently, there are 248 open corrective work orders, with 16 of them pending for more than 90 days, of which 6 are awaiting parts on back order. There are 106 open ticket items related to HVAC. They've been able to close 103 previously open HVAC repair tickets since implementing Mr. Rollo's new work order system. The team is short one ground maintenance person, and discussions with the town indicate they may be able to assist us temporarily in filling this gap. The water main replacement project at Cedar Hill is expected to start within 3 weeks. The LCS PTO, the committee is not ready to propose a resolution approving the outdoor classroom project yet, as important structural determinations still need to be made by the facilities manager. The Ridge Wasteline facilities team is contacting the town engineer, the sewage authority, and a professional plumbing engineer for recommendations and references on corrective measures for both the short and long term. Frustration was expressed by the committee and the administration, as this issue was identified in April and has still not been fixed. Regularly flushings are in progress, water level monitoring to make sure the backups don't occur. We discussed architect of record. The committee and the board tends to look at reviewing all important service providers every year, including the architect. The influx of ROD grant money statewide presents an opportunity for us to consider adding another architect to share duties, similar to what we did with the board attorney. Phone systems. The existing phone systems have not been replaced in over 20 years and are still running analog technology. The discussion was centered on replacing the systems district-wide, but starting with WAMS and Ridge. It was recommended to eliminate individual teachers' lines, which the principals recommended. It's not only is it cost savings, it'll provide cost savings. Ridge pack lighting, as Kirsten mentioned, the bulbs have aged out, and there's instances of them literally blowing up and shattering. So we plan to transition to LED lighting, which will significantly last longer and eliminate the need for frequent repairs. To repair one of these things, it takes a maintenance guy to come in with the scaffolding. The LEDs will last a lot longer, eliminating that. The Ridge and WAM's PA system, too many maintenance calls have been made, too many maintenance calls have been made that justify a replacement of the system. Both principals have reported issues with their PA systems over the years. Bill Larkin is reaching out to a contractor on the co-op for proposals to repair and replace the system. Lee Audio, the audio system requires either repair or replacement, as most of us know. The initial quote was simply too high. It was $267,000. I think we went out to 8 people, right, Jim? One person came back? Something like that.
That's the ADA access.
Yeah.
The audio wasn't that high. But we are waiting on another proposal. The audio was $45,000, the first one that came in.
We still said it was too high. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple more coming in.
It's determined that the new system needs to be accessible and usable both by students and game day volunteers. So we're going to incorporate, the new system has to incorporate safeguards, so we basically just don't blow out the volume on the speakers. And finally, the softball field, the pitcher's bullpen has been fully completed. That's it.
Any questions for facility and ops? Okay. Any liaison committee reports? Ms. Shepard.
So the Municipal Alliance Youth Services Commission meeting was on October 3rd. I could not attend myself, but asked for the minutes to be able to report out the meeting and the programs that might interest the audience. On youth services, Somerset County Resource event with a family focus on Fridays at the Somerset County WOTEC in Bridgewater. The Community Connection workshops launched Strategies for Effective Bystander Intervention is on October 27th at 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. Participants must register. They haven't had any update on the grant application. It is expected by the end of October. The community programs, Municipal Alliance's suicide prevention table at Ridge High School last month went very well. There were some discussions about the community in crisis that will have a Narcan training November 7th. CIC offers free online training about every 5 weeks. If someone attends, can receive a free kit. Also, free kits could be picked up from CIC anytime. It was emphasized how important it is to have a training on Narcan use. Also, there are pharmacies in our community that participate in Narcan program. Individuals can get free kits, and also the state will provide some of those. On youth services programs, REACH Education, Action and Community Health, REACH. Students were at the Mayor's Fall Fest this past weekend. They will also be volunteering at the information table at the second back-to-school night at Ridge, and also at the Ridge football game on Friday night to provide information to parents and students. The Creating Opportunities for Positive Emotions, COPE, is still awaiting for the grant approval. October is a substance abuse prevention month. Good information and toolkits at Prevention Month/SAMHSA. The next meeting on November 7th is canceled due to the election day. Other upcoming events is the QPR, Questions Pursued Refer training that Mr. Markering already mentioned today. It's on October 19th and November 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Municipal Alliance? Okay, any other liaison committee reports? Slide.
So we had, and I know that you would probably report out on this, but we had a PAC, Superintendent's Parent Advisory Council meeting this morning, and a hot topic towards the end of that meeting related to the WAMS cafeteria and the space in the WAMS cafeteria. And Ms. Panucci from the PEC organization had reached out, with an interesting idea, with that Washington House did for that semi-permanent structure that they have for that. I took the liberty of at least reaching out to Mayor McNally just to see what the feasibility would be, if that's even an option for us. And then if it is, we can refer that to Finance Committee to see if that's actually an option to pursue based on the demographer report and based on if it's an option, if the township would entertain it.
This was in relation to space considerations at the WAMS
Space,
cafeteria.
yes, space considerations, since there's that nice courtyard in between that might be able to provide additional space, that if they had a temporary structure, maybe that could alleviate some of the issues.
Okay, to be continued. Anything else for liaison committees? All right, that's going to bring us up to public comment on non-agenda items. Please come forward, state your name, sign in, address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening. I'm Lori Quick from 114 Church Street, Liberty Corner. Members of the board, thank you for all of your dedication and service. I've gone to a few meetings the past several months. Teachers who have spoken here have justified their health curriculum with the support of each other, wearing common t-shirts, with the support of the NEA, the most powerful union in the country, and with the state government funding their programs. The very administration that poses threats of lawsuits against its own municipal citizenry, should we dare fail to march lockstep to their dictates. I celebrate those individuals who have come forth with courage and dignity to render both arguments and solutions as parents seeking sovereignty over their own children's physical and emotional well-being. I don't trust doctors who choose to flout their Hippocratic oath to do no harm by plying children with hormones counterproductive to their biological makeup, by amputating their whole and natural body parts. And I especially distrust the doctors or psychologists who would condone even the least invasion of a healthy body. Barring signals of neglect or abuse, I don't trust teachers who are certain they know what's best for their students over what parents think is best for their children. And I don't trust governments that are advocating, adopting, and imposing on youth in the classroom political, sociological agendas that are rooted in Marxism. I do not say that lightly. I ask the individuals of the board to research the transgender movement in the lectures and writings of Susan Stryker, Jennifer James Pritzker, Rosa Lee, and probe into the victims of Lurie's Children's Hospital in Chicago. I also suggest this board formally consult with doctors and surgeons, experts from the medical community, maybe within our own township, for their professional evaluation, scientific, medical, and ethical, of this curriculum and its exclusion of parental rights. Thank you.
Melinda Ness, 154 South Allward.
At the August 22nd meeting, Mr. Molinari mentioned 2 board accomplishments related to academics. One was reviewing the materials they are expected to approve, and in some cases turning down unbalanced materials. And the second one was revisiting how the health curriculum is delivered and pointing out that they had switched directions to improving the opt-out process. The criterion for unbalanced, which was used to review and reject the textbooks, seemed to be, I personally don't like it, or some cherry-picked parts offend me, and I have watched the videos many times. Also, recall that the original motivation for revisiting how the health curriculum is delivered was to prohibit the teachers from teaching material related to a list of legally mandated health standards that the board majority deemed sensitive. Hence, both of the academic accomplishments involved attempts at censorship based on their personal ideologies. They were the only academic accomplishments of the board. One attempt succeeded, that was the textbook rejection. The other attempt, fortunately, failed, preventing teachers from teaching 12 standards. The textbook accomplishment demonstrates to me that the majority's personal ideological culture war trumps their ethical obligations to the students, the educational experts, and the board peers. However, it may assure their supporters that they don't rubber stamp recommendations of the educational experts. It convinced me that they were unable or unwilling to critically and holistically understand a textbook. To me, it clearly revealed that personal judgment of a textbook at the sentence level is not the appropriate criterion for a board member's approval if they lacked sufficient subject matter and educational expertise. I understand that the board is formulating norms for board behavior this fall. I suggest that the board members each be required to clearly and publicly articulate the criterion they use for review of materials or interference into curriculum development and delivery. They should explain why their criteria comply with the Code of Ethics and best-in-class school board practices. And I understand that different board members will have different criteria. In fact, now that the decision about the textbook for the wellness course seems to have been delayed, I understood when I went to review the book, I understood it was scheduled for tonight. I'm hoping these norms can apply to that. So surely the board can aim for more constructive accomplishments that are focused on helping every student and supporting the teachers.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Suzanne Glassman, Emerald Valley Lane. I'm responding to comments made by some Board of Ed members at the last BOE meeting and members of the Bernards Township community. Imagine being in the front of your home at 9:30 at night, kids sleeping upstairs, and all of a sudden a truck pulls up, flashing its high beams at you. A man you don't know emerges from the truck and demands your personal information, documents, and property survey. Then, when you tell him you're the homeowner and ask him to leave, he refuses. This is what a family is alleging Mr. Aaron Weber did over a sign he had mistakenly placed on their lawn that had been removed by the homeowner. And from the homeowner's video, we see him on the sidewalk.
Please stop commenting outside. Stop.
At 9:30 p.m. in front of the homeowner's house, and the homeowner says, "Do you want me to call the police?" To which he answers, "Yes, call them." The police did come, and they were professional, respectful, and helpful. But was this whole situation, including having a police presence, necessary? As alleged by the homeowner, Mr. Weber was angry and wouldn't leave. The homeowner also claims that he was demanding to see their driver's license and property survey. Mr. Weber could have asked the homeowners, "I see the signs I put here are missing. Is this your property?" And after hearing that it was their property, he could have left. Was it necessary to waste our police resources when he could have easily checked that information at the town engineering department the next day? In the police cam, The homeowners informed the police that they had previously sent the Weber campaign a cease and desist letter regarding the sign placed on their property without their permission. It also shows the police telling Aaron Weber about the C&D. They informed him that where he placed the sign was indeed the homeowner's property. Okay, a mistake, which is understandable. But what is hard to understand is that after learning from the police that a C&D was sent and knowing he placed the sign on private property, why did Mr. Weber not apologize to the homeowners? If he didn't think to apologize in the moment, he could have stopped by another time or written them a note. In my opinion, Mr. Weber missed a golden opportunity to smooth things over. I understand tensions can run high in elections. My neighbors have different opinions on who should be elected, but we always treat each other with respect. I would never ask to see their surveys or refuse to leave their driveway until they produced it. We know that when the signs come down, we're all still neighbors. There was an apology that I did see on the police cam, but it wasn't from Mr. Weber to the homeowners. It was the homeowner who said to the police, "I'm sorry for wasting your time. I'm glad you're here," because he wouldn't have left. She also said several times to the police, "He seems angry," and he was just standing there kind of intimidating. And yet, as a potential BOE member, Aaron Weber is asking for a position that would make policy for his children.
Your time is up.
I'm almost done. And yet, as a potential BOE member, Aaron Weber is asking for a position that would make policy for this family's children. BOE members require patience and an even temperament, the ability to work well with others and have bridge-building skills and understand the efficient use of township resources. Does Mr. Aaron Weber fulfill these requirements? You be the judge.
Let's keep it down from the audience. Everybody can come up here and everybody will have an opportunity to speak. Anybody else for public comment?
Hello, I live on 345 Martinsville Road. I didn't come with anything planned. Oh, my name's Lacey DeLuca. I don't have anything planned, but I did want to state that I think the protection of trans youth is very important in our town because I know I'm a sophomore in high school. I know lots of people who are, and I think their care and their protection is the most important because they may not be able to be themselves at home, and school may be their only way that they can express themselves in any way. And I just want to say I think it's very important to take that into accountability and protect them in any way possible. Okay, that's it.
Anybody else for public comment?
Good evening, Joan Bannon, 191 Patriot Hill Drive. I'm increasingly concerned about the escalating politicization of the board. At the last meeting, a night, in my opinion, which should have been all about Oak Street School's designation as a blue ribbon school, a stream of seemingly well-organized partisan supporters came to comment on the race for the BOE. They did so even though the race for the BOE is not the business of this board. We even heard from board members, some comments were made who they believed were fit to sit at the dais or serve as members. Mr. Giacomo, I ask you, is that appropriate for Board of Ed members to make such comments from their seats during a public meeting? Is that a violation of some ethical code or considered electioneering? I read an article recently published back in 2021 when our country and town started to experience a trend towards politics being injected into nonpartisan BOE elections. It said the goal of nonpartisan elections was not to remove all politics from governing, but to remove a conflict point that kept the school board from doing its job. It noted conflict becomes destructive when it becomes entrenched or predictable, regardless of the issues discussed. The issue of masking policy was given as an example, and how it has become just another symbol of our cultural and political divides. Compromise becomes impossible when every substantive debate turns into an existential debate over ideological superiority. Months were spent by the board discussing the health curriculum mandates and the text for an elective sociology class. The discussion and the decision-making centered on ideological beliefs of board members. Just because you can reject or ban a textbook doesn't mean you should. If you were truly paying attention to Board of Ed meetings, you would know politics were injected into what has always been in this town a nonpartisan election just 2 years ago. Political parties didn't endorse candidates, even though they could. Candidates and board members didn't attempt to silence their neighbors, students, or teachers because they disagreed with them. Board of Ed members did not disparage and disrespect teachers or administrative efforts to recommend textbooks. Campaign chairpersons didn't call local newspapers insisting one of their neighbors' letters be pulled from publication because they didn't want to admit they were running on a political or ideological agenda. Supporters and volunteers for candidates didn't do a deep dive into the background of other opposing candidates and publish smear posts in local media. Supporters and volunteers didn't create aliases to accuse a neighbor of mishandling funds for the district or belittle a board member's occupation as a chef. Board of Ed campaign races never raised donations anywhere near the tens of thousands of dollars. Board of Member supporters didn't come to meetings and call people who disagreed with their point of view as radicals. What did you expect? Are you not entertained?
Good evening, Shanna Pfau, 40 Berkeley Circle. I just had a question relative to follow-up on the demographic study. I don't know, I've been to the meetings since the beginning of the year. I know we were planning in spring of last year to do something and have a report come out in November. I just didn't know if there was an update that anybody could provide, since we should get back to talking about these things and not politics, hopefully. So that's what I got, thanks.
Anybody else for public comment?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Bologna, 59 Woodstone Road. So two of the committees reported today, wellness and policy. And it plays into what I was going to speak about tonight. So first I'll touch on wellness because somebody was talking about the Aaron Weber situation. I viewed that website, Corrado and Shore. And what came to mind is that we spend so much time in this district, money, effort, on anti-bullying, no bully zone. That man is getting bullied. But not only is he getting bullied, but every person that is thinking about running for a municipal spot, whether it's school board or the township committee, they're getting bullied too. Because they're sitting home saying, look what they did to that guy. And now I'm not gonna subject my family to that. Now on policy, I asked last meeting about where the administration policy is on informing parents about what their children are planning. Now, that young lady that was up here before, the sophomore, I forget her name, but she's 100% right. We have to protect these children. And part of protecting the children is informing the families, because it is a family issue. Let me repeat that. It's a family issue. It's not a state issue. The state is trying to take over for our parental rights. These children need their families. To exclude the family is tragic. We need a policy that takes into consideration the families of these children. Are we going to get sued? Maybe. I don't care. You got to do the right thing sometimes. Thank you.
Annika Forzani, Don Drive. I debated coming up, but I was, when you came onto the boards in January, believe it or not, I actually did go into the early meetings with a very open mind, and I was very positive. It was only when I felt things were getting worse that I started to speak up regularly, but always in support of our teachers, our students, and what I thought was best for the school. Yet last meeting, when there was a forum, the forum was supposed to be for you to engage in self-evaluation. I felt that instead of acknowledging that perhaps you made some mistakes, you learned, you wanted to make some improvements, repair relationships with our educators and staff, et cetera. Mr. Molinari, I was really kind of upset and taken aback that you, in turn, instead took the tack of blaming the public for the dysfunctional behavior of the board. I think you said people, meaning like us who have coming to comment, have been sowing the division and dysfunction they're complaining about. And then another board member said, that other board members should be given a break for breaking policy because they need to learn the ropes, et cetera. I don't come here to sow dysfunction. I come here to express concerns. I'm really concerned that we're going to lose good teachers. I'm really concerned about the way staff time is being used to relook and redo curriculum, et cetera, et cetera. I'm really concerned that we're not listening to the teachers that are the experts. That's why I'm coming. I don't know about I know you were concerned that, somebody caused dysfunction because they called the Washington Post. I don't know if somebody did, but I heard that the Washington Post editor's family was from here, so perhaps that's why, I don't know. But, we didn't cause the dysfunction. We didn't elect, you guys elected yourselves president and vice president without first learning the functioning, the policies, and appropriate behaviors on the board. That led to a lot of chaotic meetings with last-minute motions and lack of appropriate inter-board communications. That didn't used to happen, but that's not something that we caused. We didn't call for the firing of an esteemed staff member in violation of basic board ethics, putting our district at legal risk. We didn't do that. That's dysfunction that was created by one of your running mates. Never saw that kind of behavior again. We didn't enrage the community for calling on cuts for staff that had been approved minutes before without first notifying all board members of the plan. Again, first time I have ever seen that happen. We didn't disparage the work of teachers and disrespect their expertise to the point where I heard many are polishing their resumes. I didn't do that. I expressed concern, but I didn't create that dysfunction. We didn't decide to share information with some board members and others. We didn't hold up our phone disrespectfully when people were coming to talk to us. Again, I never saw that behavior before this year. We didn't outright reject factual medical studies in a book that all educated doctors are aware of because it didn't fit into our perceived personal view of another race or because we didn't know about that study.
Ma'am, your time is up.
So I guess my point is that I don't think you can blame us for this dysfunction, and I felt really upset because I've been coming here over and over to try to express these concerns, and you turn it around and you tell me we're creating dysfunction. These were not things I did. These were things I'm concerned about, so I really wish we could have seen some kind of self-evaluation to say that maybe you didn't do everything right and we could work better together going forward. That's what I had really hoped for, so I was disappointed. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment?
Sherry Nelson, 195 Smoke Rise Road. I don't have a script to read, so bear with me. I hear a lot of things in public comments that they're just so hypocritical and untrue. We repeatedly are hearing about we don't want the Board of Ed politicized from a politician. She comes up here all the time with that. You guys should probably know that the three people who commented tonight who are the most critical of you are all elected Democrat representatives in our town. Elected, they're on the ballot. I count seven elected Democrats here tonight that speak frequently at these meetings and criticize you guys, but they don't want it politicized. This thing that happened with Aaron Weber, let's see. The campaign, Ms. Corrado is an elected Democrat in town. Her campaign manager is an elected Democrat in town. The woman who sat in our audience and filmed Mr. Ratio and made an attack out on him is an elected Democrat in town. So it's extremely hypocritical to be told you don't want things politicized. There is clearly an effort from a political party to influence our Board of Ed. Very specifically, the lies told tonight about Mr. Weber, let's see. He wasn't in front of anyone's home, and he didn't stand in anyone's driveway. I have driven by this location out of curiosity, and I've even looked on Google Maps. You can do it from home, and you can measure. It's almost 500 feet from the home in question and the corner where this sign was. A football field is 360 feet. So we're talking way past. You can't see a house. You don't even know that anyone lives there. So it is reasonable to think that this was not private property. It's an area where you see signs all the time through town. The campaigns had signs stolen everywhere. So yeah, you're gonna ask questions about your signs getting stolen. Very specifically, the cease and desist letter that's in question. I've seen it, and it was sent on Rosh Hashanah. And we have a Jewish candidate, a candidate married to someone who's Jewish, and another half-Jewish candidate on this ticket. They weren't checking their email over Rosh Hashanah, but that cease and desist letter said, come get your sign within 48 hours. Why had they taken up the sign within 8 hours? I have so many questions. But the bottom line is the attack ad. Why? One more thing. How is Aaron Weber supposed to apologize when the police have him way over there and Homer's over there? Do you think the police were going to let him go over there and talk to them when they're trying to keep everyone separate? The arguments that are being made aren't even logical. But I know that so many people have reached out personally, myself included, to Ms. Corrado, who won't respond to us. Anyone who questions this ad, the truth of it, or they get blocked.
Your time's up.
I'm done. They get blocked and banned from a campaign page. So if Corrado and Shaw get elected, they're not going to listen to anyone who disagrees with them. They'll just block you and ban you.
Hello, Christine Milanic, 112 Galloping Hill Road. I just wanted to come up here and share a definition for everyone because there seems to be some confusion about what parental rights means. Parental rights means that as a parent, I have the right to opt my child out of a health curriculum or even opt my child out of bisecting frogs. I can even take my child out of the public school system if I want to. But parental rights does not mean that I have a right to take away health curriculum so that all the other children in the district cannot be educated and take part in a town-funded public education in our democratic society. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood what parental rights means. Thanks.
Anybody else for public comment?
Hi, Neslahan Montag, 41 Essex Place. I just want to say how deeply it saddens me to see what's happening to our board and what this board is doing to our schools and our community. We've lived in this town for over 25 years, and all 4 of our boys have gone to the schools and benefited tremendously from them. And up until these newest board members came on board, nobody paid a whole lot of attention to Board of Ed meetings because they knew that the board was doing its job and they didn't really have to pay much attention. No one knew what anyone's political or other affiliations were on the board, and nobody cared because it's supposed to be a nonpartisan body and it shouldn't matter. But I wanted to comment on the last board meeting, which I live streamed because I was traveling, and I was just struck by the completely inappropriate use of board forum, which is just part of what we're seeing with this board not following board rules or ethics that they don't like. I found the board president's comments in particular particularly rich because board forum is meant as an opportunity for the board to publicly discuss issues of concern to the community in general. It's not a platform for board members to air their personal grievances. I honestly had to laugh because I felt like I was watching the Seinfeld episode with Festivus where they have the airing of the grievances. Only this wasn't funny. I'm pretty sure if all the board members decided to abuse the board forum process to complain about their own issues, we'd have an earful and we'd be here all night. But as board members, you're up there representing our district, and you're supposed to be representing and respecting our community, not chastising them for exercising their rights. So to use board forum to complain that you're getting Oprah requests, that people are asking for information they are legally entitled to, is it any wonder people are requesting this information when this board has been anything but transparent? The policy behind Oprah is that government records should be readily accessible to the public. You may not personally like getting the requests, but that's irrelevant. You're legally required to respond. Does it not occur to you that you may be receiving an exceptionally large number of Oprah requests because you're not being transparent? We've heard people come up here and express concern and outrage over the way this board has treated them. They've said that they feel intimidated, harassed, and that their voices are being silenced because they're expressing their views. People came up month after month and asked our board president to say something, as it's your board role over these meetings to assure that the public feels comfortable speaking. And we got nothing. You really had nothing to say, no matter how many people came up and expressed concern about the disrespect that was being shown and that they were feeling harassed. But then the second that you felt personally offended, you had plenty to say, and you abused our board forum process just to express your personal views. And that's not right, and our community deserves better than that.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Okay, but that's what elections are for. Thank you.
Hello, Stacy Molinari, Franklin Drive. I just want to clear up a couple of things that were total blatant misstatements tonight. I would go so far as to call them lies. Someone mentioned respect, but they used it in a negative way to say that you all were being disrespectful. I will say respect is not denigrating your neighbor, not creating smear campaigns, and not lying about things that are just simply not true. So we've seen that quite a bit in this campaign, and it's a smear attack, and it's wrong. That is not respect, okay? The woman before me said people didn't pay attention. Of course we should be paying attention. Why wouldn't we be paying attention? People weren't paying attention before because there wasn't productive dialogue. There wasn't people who disagreed with each other. That's a good thing. Can't we agree that that's a good thing? No one disagreed with each other last years, many years. That positive tension that someone talked about last time is what will help our community. I do have to correct a few misstatements. The health curriculum was never to take away a standard. It was only to take another look at it, as everybody promised that would happen last year. It never was. We know that now because of the types of questions that former curriculum leaders were asking the legal team. That should have been addressed when the survey first came out. It never was. And if it was poor communication. That's all we're asking for. I want to correct the Aaron Weber statements. None of that is true. It is visible in the police video, and it's disgusting what the Corrado Shaw campaign is doing to their neighbor. It's wrong. So I will end how I started last time and how I ended this last time. Thank you. Thank you even to you who I don't agree with, because I like seeing the differences in opinion and I like the discussion. It is productive. It's debate, it's discussion. It's not chaos. Just because it never happened before doesn't mean it's wrong. Thank you for looking at the health curriculum. Thank you for assessing that sociology book, and I hope you continue to look at what our students are learning. Thank you for creating the Facility and Ops Committee, because we see how productive that has become. Thank you for putting out that vote to relook at the budget as soon as the one that was required to be passed was looked at, was approved. It was very transparent to me that it was clear you were going to take another look at it, rather than what was done in former years, which was simply changing it along the way with no one knowing the better. Thank you for your diverse opinions. Keep up the good work.
Anybody else for public comment? Going once, twice. Public comment is closed. We're going to go to board forum, but Mr. Markarian, anything you'd like to address?
Thank you, Mr. Molinari. So there was one question, Ms. Fox, you were going to jump in on it, I think?
Sure. The question about the book Happier was initially reported that we would vote on it tonight, but in reviewing the policy, which requires a 30-day public review, tonight would have been 2 days short of that, so it will be on the agenda for a vote November 13th.
Thanks. The other one was the demographic study. We have engaged someone to do that, and we expect to have it done probably November, December timeframe. Thanks.
Okay. Board forum, still titled that. Anybody have anything? Going once, going twice. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Ms. Light, Mr. Salmon, all in favor? Means adjourned.